Be a few changes. Okay, recording in progress. Okay, let's say that I want to form a compound that is made of calcium and phosphate. So, how can we work with this? First of all, we need to do the exact same thing that we did before. We need to identify cation and anion. So which one is my cation here? Which one is my cation? Which one has positive charge, calcium or phosphate?
Calcium.
So you identify the cation as calcium. Therefore, phosphate is going to be the anion. Okay, that's the first step. Now it says write the formulas. So I'm going to write the formulas. Calcium, which is written like that, 2 plus, and phosphate, that is written as PO4, 3 negative. Now, the second step is we need to exchange the charges. Okay, so if we need to change the charges, how is the compound going to be written? Okay, how is it going to be written? You will have your calcium and your phosphate. So the 3 from phosphate, where are you going to write it? After calcium or after oxygen?
After calcium.
So the 2 for calcium, the 2 from calcium, you're going to write it after oxygen, like that. We already exchanged the charges. Now the next step is you have to use parentheses to separate the polyatomic ion from the subscript. So we have to use parentheses. Remember the reason? Because we need to separate the polyatomic ion from the subscript. So you are going to have this. Okay. Now, where am I going to place the parentheses? Remember, I want to separate the polyatomic ion from the subscript. So this is my subscript, and this is my polyatomic ion, and I want them to be separate. So to do that, I will place a parenthesis over there. In this way, they're going to be apart. Now, how are we going to name it? The naming process is very simple. Only 2 steps. The naming process is very simple, only 2 steps. The first step, you will write the cation's name, and in the second step, you will write the polyatomic ions the polyatomic ion's name. So Ca3PO4 is going to be named as, okay, it's going to be named as, write the cation's name, so which is just calcium, and then it says write the polyatomic ion's name. The polyatomic ion is the one that is inside the parentheses. How do you call that ion? What's the name?
Phosphate.
Phosphate. Okay, so you just will write calcium and phosphate. As you can see, this is a lot simpler because you don't have to be looking for the root or changing the suffix by id. No, just write the cation, which is calcium, and write the polyatomic ion, that is just phosphate. Simple as that. But sometimes it's not going to be that simple. So I'm going to do one more example. My next example will be between ammonium and sulfate. Take a look. This is going to be my example too. It says that I have to form a compound between ammonium and sulfate. So according to the rules I gave you, what I have to do first, I have to identify cation and anion. Which one is my cation? Which one has the positive charge? Is it ammonium or is it sulfate? Which one has the positive charge?
It's
Ammonium.
ammonium.
Ammonium has a positive charge, so it's going to be my cation. The charge actually is positive 1. And sulfate, therefore, is going to be my anion, and it has a charge of negative 2. Okay, now that you have identified cation and anion, you have to write the formulas. Ammonium is NH4, and the charge is 1 plus. Sulfate is SO4, and the charge is 2 negative. What is going to be my next step? The second step says that I have to change the charges. Okay, so I'm just going to join them. Okay, the charges that are 1 plus or 1 negative, they can be totally ignored. Okay, remember this. You can ignore totally the charges of 1 plus or 1 negative, which leaves you only with this charge. So where are you going to put that charge? After
Ammonium.
nitrogen, after hydrogen, after sulfur, or after oxygen?
After hydrogen.
after hydrogen, so you're gonna put it here, a little bit below, okay? Question, do I need to place parentheses here?
Yes.
Where am I going to place parentheses? Here or there? Green or red?
Green.
Green, exactly. Remember, we separate the polyatomic ion from the subscript. Here we have a subscript of 1, but because it is invisible, sorry, because 1 over there is invisible, you actually don't need to place parentheses, just over there. Now, if I want to name it, what will be the name for it? Which one is named first? Ammonium or sulfate?
Ammonium.
Ammonium.
Ammonium and then the polyatomic ion, sulfate. Now, today a student asked me a few things, okay? She asked me, can we simplify? And she also asked me if we can cancel charges. So I'm going to do two more examples that are they're going to be quicker for that thing. Because I just want to show you that yes, it is possible, okay? So I'm going to show you an example between calcium and sulfate. Take a look to this example. First, you have to identify the cation and anion. So you have your cation, and here you have your anion, okay? So the next step is you put them together. But there, what can we make or how can we do with the charges? Because the charges are same but opposite symbols, they are going to be cancelled. If they are cancelled, means that you don't need to write them. So in conclusion, as a conclusion, yes, we can cancel the charges. How can we name it? How do you name it? Cation? How do we name it? Cation is?
Calcium.
Anion?
Sulfate.
As you can see, very simple. And you don't need to write the subscripts because they were cancelled. Now we can have different, another example, like here for example, I give you PV 4 plus and again sulfate. So which one is the cation? It's the positive. So this is the positive cation and the other one therefore is the anion. Okay? So you put them together. Okay, you put them together. Now the 4 that is from lead, where are you going to put it? After oxygen, after sulfur, or after lead?
After oxygen.
After oxygen. And the 2 for sulfate is placed here at lead. In this case, we are going to simplify, but I am missing something. I am missing the parentheses right there to separate. And because I can simplify. 2/4 is going to be 1/2. So you're just going to write it again. But now already simplified.